Welcome everyone to Dr. John Bedker's Leadership Podcast, the podcast focused on leadership. The episode will begin shortly. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the podcast.
Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Dr. John Bedker Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, John Bedker. Well, today we're going to talk about catastrophe, its impact, its effect, and maybe its changing effect, or not, on leaders. Okay, here we go. In our turbulent world today, catastrophe is all around us. We regularly, routinely talk about, internationally, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. A catastrophe for sure. The Hamas and Israeli war, another. The bombing of Iran by Israel and the U.S. The taking of people from the United States to foreign prisons without due process. The list goes on and on and on by the day. It does not recede. It does not let up. And the actions and events just seem to grow. Domestically, here within the United States, turbulence and catastrophe continues and is growing as well. Civil rights, human rights, the effects of DOGE, that Department of Government Efficiency, so-called, seem to be coming to fruition and even expanding. As leaders, we are called to strive daily to do what is right. In my heart, I know each of us knows the difference between right and wrong. To do what is right is unfortunately far too often very difficult. As leaders, we must, and let me emphasize that word, must not stumble. We must regularly and continually strive to do the right thing. So let me pose just a few questions. Is it right to separate children from their parents? Well, certainly if there was an issue of abuse, of neglect, any number of absolutely inappropriate and untoward things, then a child protective services warrant would make sense. But far and away today, in the news, daily, we're hearing about these events without any such adverse or negative circumstances. We're hearing about children being taken or separated who are U.S. citizens, and perhaps a case would be made to remove them from the United States. So the cause of children seems a simple, a straightforward, easy calculus to make. Are we doing the right thing? The answer, sadly and catastrophically, is no. What about some of these unknown agents with masks and weapons approaching college students, placing them in unmarked cars and sending them to a detention center, often far away, hundreds if not thousands of miles away? Is that right? Is that American? Is that our American values? Are we doing the right thing? And again, seems straightforward, seems quite clear. No. As leaders, we certainly must conclude this is not who we are or who we should be, but it certainly is not the right thing. Is it right for a National Guardsman or a U.S. Marine on active duty to put on battle gear and overtake a city park with nothing more than summer camp children present. Now, can we sit down and say to ourselves, wow, the right thing is certainly not that. We certainly should not be doing that as leaders, ordering them or following those orders. I've served in the military. We took an oath, a solemn oath, to protect and defend, absolutely, the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, not friends, enemies, that we would obey all lawful orders, lawful. So you have to ask yourself, are these criteria being met? And if we conclude that doing the right thing would say no, absolutely not. So I've only mentioned a few, but the list of domestic turbulence and catastrophe is already growing. It too is significant. So let me move from some of those larger to some of these more localized ideas and talk about what about the role of leaders in these turbulent times. We all know we have three co-equal, sort of stomp my foot there, co-equal branches of government in the United States: the legislative, the judicial, and the executive. Currently, the legislative and judicial have abdicated their authorities, their responsibilities, and their accountabilities to the executive. No longer do they feel accountable to the American people, to the U.S. Constitution, and certainly not to doing the right thing. So 2/3 of our government is in a catastrophe of not doing the right thing. So let's localize it and bring it to current day. We have flooding in Texas, with a loss already of over 100 lives. A catastrophe, to be sure. Texas, an oil-rich state with over $20 billion in state funds, is asking the federal government for emergency aid, and President Trump, the leader of the executive party, I shouldn't say that, the executive branch, is going to make clear that they will receive anything they need. Well, of course, this is good. Helping those in need. That is a good thing. That is the right thing. But think of the context. Shouldn't we also be looking at how this situation came about? DOGE, again, that Department of Government Efficiency, so-called, made cuts at the National Weather Service, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, and at the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So NWS, NOAA, and FEMA all play a role. Perhaps not causal, but certainly contributory. A wealthy state not approving sirens, alarms, flood warning system, also certainly contributory. Did leaders think that their ideologies were the right way to go? No. I really and truly believe that in their hearts, they knew what they were doing was not the right thing, was not in the common good. It did not serve well those that have been lost, their loved ones. Particularly in this case of the flooding in Texas, many children that have been lost. So the question is, does catastrophe change you forever? I think as leaders, it's really important to think about that, to reflect on that, because we have to always think about these leadership core competencies. And in particular here, I'm thinking about position awareness and situational awareness, two important competencies for leaders. Keep in mind that position, that title, that rank, that authority doesn't make you a leader. We all know that. But let's hope that they do as well. Positional awareness is that these peoples in positions of power, authority, clout, may or may not be practicing leadership. And situational awareness. We're losing human life. It can't get any more real than that. So internationally, if you're in Ukraine, or if you're in Gaza, if you're in any number of places around our world, we really have to ask ourselves, is in this situation, is the leadership doing the right thing? I'm talking about this, and I promise I will not dwell, but I'm talking about this from some absolute, real perspective. Because when I reflect upon, does catastrophe change you forever? I'm saying that in my heart that I know that it has changed me. Why? Because I have experienced real tragedy in my life, real catastrophe. I've lost 2 children. Different events, different times, but they are gone. Forever and far too young. So I did this podcast today intentionally, purposefully, because where we are in our world at this moment, does catastrophe change you forever or not? And sadly, it's that last part I'm worried about, the or not. I know how it's affected me, and it has affected me forever. But I hope in a positive and affirmative way. As a leader, my empathy is accentuated. My sensitivity is clear. My service and commitment to others is authentic and heartfelt. Catastrophe has changed me forever. And believe me, 2 huge catastrophes. But I feel like, in a way, it's an opportunity for me to give back even more as a leader. But can we say the same for Congress, our Supreme Court, our president, the governor, legislature of the state of Texas? I don't know. But my fear is it has not. They each know, in their own circumstance, in their own authorities and responsibilities, what the right thing is. For that I am confident. Will they do the right thing? That I am not confident about. That's sad. That's tragic. From a leadership point of view, it is critical that we each have awareness, position awareness, situational awareness, our own personal awareness about that which is going on. There oftentimes rigid ideologies, their political fealty to President Trump and whatever he says, are bringing a nation to its ruin. We must all do the right thing regularly. It is the essence of leadership, folks. Do the right thing. How? Stand up. Speak out. Participate. Contribute. Never doubt and always remember that democracy must be earned, and we are perilously close to losing it. So the message today is really about catastrophe all over our world, in all different places and venues and people, supposed leaders, people with authority, responsibility. Are they doing the right thing? In Gaza, was it right for 1,200 people to pass away in Israel through an absolutely abhorrent action by Hamas? And the answer is absolutely not. Terrible, horrific, wrong. So is the response to take the lives of 60,000, and keep in mind that first number, 1,200, which initiated this, so the response is to take the lives of 60,000 people, many of whom are innocents, not members of Hamas, but Palestinians, just hoping to get to the next day, hoping to try to do the right thing, as they had all along in their lives. But yet, if we make a statement in support, we are held in contempt. As a leader, we must stand up and say, no. Democracy, diplomacy, and peace are the paths. And to say that it's impossible, that it cannot be, ever, 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 I do not believe is the truth. I do believe that each of us has a capacity to do the right thing, to do the best that we can. None of us is perfect. If you're looking for a purity test here and you want to hold, whatever side you're on, the other side accountable because they're not pure, well, that's a loser battle. None of us is without failure. As the Bible would tell us, none of us is without sin. We're just trying to do the best we can. But if we're trying to do the best that we can, then we're doing something good. Even when we fail, even when we screw up, even when we fall short. And in these cases of catastrophe, terrible, terrible things, whether it's Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, certainly most recently, talking here about Texas, but of course we've seen people absolutely abdicate their authorities, their responsibilities to each and every one of us. And by that I mean the Congress of the United States, the Supreme Court of the United States, abdicating to show fealty to the executive branch, and in particular, President Donald Trump. Again, folks, these rigid ideologies at the expense of people all around our world, political fealty to President Trump, could very well bring a nation, our nation, the United States, to a ruin. We do need to participate, to stand up, to speak out, and to make our contribution to do the right thing. Again, democracy must be earned, and we are perilously close to losing it. Okay, that's the message today, folks. Really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Dr. John Bedker's Leadership Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please tell your friends, and, of course, please follow our podcast and subscribe. Thank you again for tuning in.